And this way, if someone who wanted to come, but for some reason, if their phone didn't connect or something, they'll be able to at least watch later on.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Cool. So that is now, and it says update recording. So you are good to go. And it's Seanan, right?
Yes.
Ah, sweet. This is Cersei.
Hi, Seanan.
Hi, Cersei. Oh, I like your hat.
Oh,
Thank you.
isn't it cool?
It does all kinds of fun things. It can be a mushroom. It can go really tall.
Yeah, mushroom is absolutely what I was thinking of.
And it goes with the
mushroom
dress. Yeah, it's super
Thank
cool.
Yeah, that's very nicely fungal.
And I get tacos too, or a satellite dish.
You could hold things.
Nice. Yeah, my friend JS Fields is actually the world expert in spalted wood.
Mm.
They're a wood scientist who works as a practicing mycologist.
Oh my gosh.
And fantastic.
Amazing.
That is really cool.
All right.
Yeah, you're comfortable?
I think so.
Okay.
I would like to change the angle a little bit so that's in the background and not boxes. As if it matters, just,
You do whatever you want.
All right.
I'll get out of your way.
all righty.
Buzz me if you need anything.
Okay, super. Thank you
And
so
then
much.
I'll be
Becca.
back. You don't need to use the bathroom.
Was it, don't need to do what? What?
Use the bathroom.
No, I'm good. Already took care of that.
Cool. And like I said, just don't let that disconnect. The battery's so bad, it'll just die. It'll just die right away.
Jinxed it. Okay, there we go.
I have an appointment Sunday to get it.
Oh, to get it fixed.
So
All right.
awesome.
Super. Thank you very much. Thanks. All right. Just 1 second while I get myself
Oh,
situated.
no problem.
Thank you.
I've had plenty of time to get situated. I'm at my dining room table.
Well, we are closing the doors here in con sales, and the last few guests are on their way out. So let me move this a bit. All right. Lovely. All right, and you are in, did I say Seattle?
Yes.
Okay. My husband just so happens to be in the Puget Sound on Whidbey Island right now, of all places.
Why?
He's a dance facilitator for Turning the Wheel Productions, an
Oh,
intergenerational.
wow.
So he's up there teaching improv and dance to facilitators. So pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah, he showed me the banana slugs. You guys got some slugs out there.
They are good.
Biggins. All right. Let me get my notes. All situated here. Okay. I think I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. So welcome, internet
Thank you.
audience. Yeah. To Seanan Mcguire, an author who is author and musician, who is here to tell us about their work, their interests, and I'm very interested in the question you posed as to who here was bitten by the strangest thing. I am curious to delve into that at some point if that piques your interest as well. So would you like to start off by telling us about your work?
Well, that is longer than we really have. So my name's Seanan, as we've established. I don't sleep. I pretty much just write. And so I write mostly in the urban fantasy field, though I also do modern fantasy and portal fiction. I've done a comic run on Ghost Spider for Marvel, and I do a lot of licensed IP work to kind of fill in the gaps between everything else. When not being me, I am Mira Grant, who does horror and biomedical science fiction, or A. Deborah Baker, who does middle grade children's fantasy.
And why is it that you have two pseudonyms?
If you want a McDonald's hamburger, you don't go to Burger King. And if you went to Burger King and they served you a McDonald's hamburger, it doesn't matter if that's your favorite kind of hamburger, you're going to be a little upset. People work that way with any kind of brand name, including author names. It is exceptionally difficult if you've established yourself in one genre to move into another genre without upsetting people. Even Charlene Harris, who is massive, got a lot of backlash when she went from doing the Sookie Stackhouse vampire books to doing more classical paranormal romance, because people want the hamburger they think they're ordering. Neil Gaiman is one of the only exceptions I can think of who's been able to get people to follow him across genres. And he didn't do that right out the box. If you go back to the beginning of his career and watch his books, everything at that beginning point was very much in the same dark fantasy kind of alleyway. And he didn't start to branch out and get really deeply weird until he had broken out and become a virtually household name. So if you want to do multiple things, if you're an urban fantasy author that also wants to write detective fiction, or you're a cozy mystery writer that also wants to do proper happily ever after romances, you kind of need to have different names. It's also a way to protect yourself, because anymore, book sales are almost entirely determined by bookstore orders, and those are controlled by computer. So bookstores order as many books as they think they can sell, and that is based on the number of books that they sold the last time they ordered books from an author with that name. The A. Deborah Baker books don't sell as well as the Seanan Mcguire books. They are a much more niche audience. They do well enough. I'm happy with them, but that would reduce the orders for my adult fiction if I had published those under my own name.
Interesting. I would imagine too that with a young adult or a younger audience may not be like appropriate readers for some of your other stuff. Is that part of the thinking as well?
Yes and no. I mean, I was reading Stephen King when I was 9. I read basically everything, and our household policy was always that if my mother said I could have it, then I could have it. And no one other than my mom and my grandma got to decide what was appropriate for me. And yeah, I am not a parent, but I am a godparent. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I still think that is the right approach. You don't get to tell me what I can give to my younger goddaughter. I get to tell me what I can give to my younger goddaughter, and that's all run through her parents. So if somebody's parents wanted to hand them my zombie trilogy, cool, you're the one paying the therapy bills, not me. I don't think you should be allowing your children to run through the bookstore completely unsupervised, grabbing whatever they want. That's rude to the bookstore employees. Like, if that's how you're picking books for your kid, you're kind of doing a shitty parenting job. And I really hope that you will step up and be better rather than expecting authors to obfuscate themselves to keep your children from picking up books that are outside their age range.
Wow, great point. Thank you. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about how you go from your idea to publishing. I know that's a huge question, but you're so prolific. And I have a lot of questions about like, where do you get them all? And then what is your process from when you start something to publishing?
So I will say that I think Stephen King, you'll hear him a lot. You're in Maine. I'm sure you already hear about him a lot, but I think Stephen King was right when he said that ideas are kind of your subconscious farting. You swallow things all the time. You hear things all the time, get all these concepts in your head, and they sink down to the bottom of your brain where you're not consciously aware of them. And then they bubble and they bake and they ferment. And occasionally something will bubble up through it. And that's an idea. And that's why the idea is the cheap part of the work. Having the idea is the easiest thing in the world. And that's why almost every time there's something successful, you get 20 people coming out of the woodwork saying, well, I had that idea. They're probably correct. They had that idea, but no one read their mind. We're all living in the same cultural zeitgeist. I have notes on books I want to write going back to high school. Some of them will never be written for a lot of reasons. But when I was in my junior year, I had my first real, this is it. This is the idea. This is going to change everything for you. It was so novel, so innovative. No one else would ever have had that idea. It was Little Red Riding Hood as the werewolf. I have now seen that done at least half a dozen times in horror movies, in urban fantasies, in comic books. It's been done well, it's been done poorly. I have never actually done it because by the time I got around to it, I had seen other people do it and I wasn't sure I could do it in an uncontaminated way. But the idea is nothing. The idea is cheap as candy wrappers. How I go from the idea to publication is first I tell my agent, I want to write this book. And then about half the time my agent says, no, you're already committed to things through 2026. You can't do that. And then the other half the time she goes, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'll see if I can sell it. And that is because I am at a stage in my career where I can just book out by extending the series I already have going. I don't need to write the book before we sell it. We get the contracts and then I write the book. And that is an incredibly privileged position to be in, but it's one that you get to by having published 70 books in 15 years. You know, it's not an easy thing to do. Not much sleep there. But once I've got the idea approved by my agent, I find the time in my writing schedule to do it. And then I sit down and pretty much plow from beginning to end. And whether there's an outline or just some sketchy notes on a Post-it is very case by case. That depends on the book, on the project. You know, is it book 17 in an ongoing series, or is it the first book in something new where I don't need to refer to anything else? I'll draw charts. I'll do those crazy pants murder walls like you see in detective stories, you know, whatever is necessary to help me visualize it. And then I sit down and just type until I'm done. And depending on who is officially writing the book, whether it's A. Deborah Baker or Mira Grant or someone in the middle, that'll be 80,000 to 180,000 words. And then when I'm done, I start editing it, which involves retyping it at least twice. And we'll send it off to my beta readers and my agent to have them edit it too. And then I will call them all horrible names because they fixate on things like comma usage. Like, no, my commas are perfectly fine. Leave them alone. It's one of the only things I get actually shirty about because I was taught in like 7th grade that you put a comma in a sentence where you're supposed to take a breath. You're taking a breath, you put a comma there. Breath, comma, comma, breath. That's how it works. And I'm writing very orally most of the time. I'm thinking about how it sounds. So if I want you as a reader to take a breath, I'm going to put a comma in there. And when people go, that's not grammatically correct, and take out 90 of my commas, I kind of want to hit them. I don't hit them because violence is wrong, but I have that impulse and I take it out by saying swear words, lots of swear words. My cats know so many swear words. Once we feel that it's properly edited, then we send it to my actual editor who gets paid to edit it. My editors like that my manuscripts come to them very clean because we've already killed all those extraneous commas and someone else got sworn at rather than them, but they still do another pass. They'll request any rewrites that need done. They'll catch another 90 commas. I'll say some more swear words, and then it gets taken by the publisher and they do all of the stuff that I have no idea how to do.
I'm stuck on the your commas, and
I'm not wrong.
No, I believe you. I believe you, and I wonder, does it ever happen with you where your way of writing and your voice has kind of pushed the envelope in the publishing world, where you have where your commas and the oral way that the rhythm of your writing is accepted as how you are? Like, is there any of that?
Yes, I do get accepted as how I am, mostly in short fiction, because it is easier to deal with someone whose idea of comma usage is abuse them as hard as you can and see how many of them run away when you're talking at 60,000 words. A lot of my novellas and my short fiction I have lost the tense in that sentence, but when I'm writing short, I tend to get to a very kind of rollicking fairy tale feel. And that is intentional. That is kind of the voice in which I naturally think. And in that space, I am much more likely to be allowed to preserve my precious, precious commas because people are like, okay, well, she's in fairy tale mode again. We're just going to leave her alone and not make any sudden movements. As long as we don't move too fast, she will not attack us. Okay. But again, back to privileged statements, I've earned a little leeway in some areas by being dependable. I don't miss deadlines, by being relatively, I've proven that I will perform. Like, I'm not a #1 with a bullet bestseller, but if you buy one of my books, you can be sure of pretty stable numbers and probably making your investment back. And that is what publishers want a lot of the time. So I'm a safe bet. And that means that a lot of publishers are like, we're gonna let her have her weird comma fetish. It's not hurting anybody. Oh, look, she found a new place to put a comma. That's exciting.
Good. Back to the to your editing process. I'm curious about how when you're receiving your inspiration for your fleshing out your ideas and your writing, is it fairly fully formed? Like, do you have to really agonize to go back in and make changes? Like, is it just dropping down fully formed to you, or is there a lot of process around getting to the heart of the story that you want?
It really depends on the story. I think anyone who tells you that there's a universal, this is my process answer to that question is bullshitting you, because every story is different. It's like teaching a kid how to safely handle frogs. Every kid is going to be different, and every child is going to take that lesson in a different way. Every story is different. Every idea is different. When I'm being Mira Grant, I write biomedical science fiction thrillers, and that means that I do a lot of research. I do so much research. For the parasitology trilogy, I went to the Minnesota Museum of Parasitology and got myself a tapeworm. His name was Timmy, and I had him for 2.5 years before I did 2 courses of ivermectin to get rid of him, because I needed to understand what that experience was like to be able to accurately write about it. But I also went to the University of California, Berkeley, go Bears, for a major in folklore. And that means that I don't do a lot of research anymore when I'm doing a folklore-based thing. I've already done that research. It's called my bachelor's degree, and so I will sit down and just start with what I already know. And if I need to verify something or check that I'm right or wrong about something, then I'll look it up. And I've got those books in my library downstairs to be able to, verify.
Interesting. As you were speaking about your research, I'm noticing the card catalogs behind you. May I ask what's in those drawers?
So the card catalogs behind me are a mixture of Rement, which is itty bitty doll furniture from Japan. Some of these contain Disney pins. That's more Rement. Some of them contain D&D miniatures. This one's got D&D minis. So my D&D group has things to fight with. And then a bunch of them down here. Oh, that one's empty right now. I should probably put some stuff away. Oh, I found the cat scissors. Them contain play mats for Magic the Gathering. So that you put your cards on a safe, sterile surface while you're playing, because Magic the Gathering cards, individual cards, can be very valuable. And so we don't want to put them directly on the table.
Right, with all the right. Speaking of magic, did I read somewhere that you have done some fiction writing for magic?
Yeah, Magic the Gathering is one of the IPs that I work for.
Okay.
Last year in DC, I actually managed to, through a combination of I like to feel decent writing and some pretty vigorous campaigning, which I am not going to pretend I didn't do, get a Magic the Gathering short story onto the Hugo ballot, which is great. I had a wonderful time with that. It made me very, very happy to achieve. And my favorite thing about it was that I got to spend the entirety of the Worldcon dealing with people asking me if there was actually a story in Magic the Gathering. And it's like, well, it's a card game, yes, and it is a card game first. If you asked Hasbro which matters more, the card game or the story, they would say, well, we pay authors, we make billions on the card game. The card game comes first. That being said, it's had a story from the beginning. That's part of why people are compelled to keep playing the card game. You know, they have been invested in this story for however long, for years, for decades in some cases, and they want to know how it plays out. They want to know who the Raven Man is, and they want to know what happens to the University of Talaria. And these are all ongoing stories that have been in process since I was in high school. And I am very excited and honestly honored to be a part of making this story continue forward and helping to make sure that it is coherent and clean and treated with the kind of respect that I feel it deserves with its 30 years of history. Now, Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, and Magic the Gathering, none of them love me. These companies that we do IP work for, that we are fans of, they don't care about us. They don't have the capacity to care about us. They will throw us out the window at the slightest provocation. I am very careful what I say when I talk about Magic. I'm honest, but I'm careful because I know that I say the wrong thing and I could be out on my ear. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's bigger than me. It needs to keep being bigger than me. And I want to keep working for it because as a fan of this setting, I like knowing that someone who actually cares is putting these pieces together and is working on this stuff. But yeah, no, Magic called me in 2020. Okay, when did that come out? That was Magic called me in late 2020 and asked, you know, hey, do you want to do some fiction for us? And my agent was like, well, I don't know. She might. I'll ask her. And I said, if I'm doing Magic fiction, does that mean the cards are tax deductible? And my accountant said, oh, God. And my agent verified that yes. And so did my accountant. So now I do as much Magic as they'll let me.
Yay!
I only have to publish one thing a year to keep my cards tax deductible for the entire fiscal year. And as you would know, if you know any Magic the Gathering players, we can spend a lot of money on cards.
Right on. Wow, that's a great perk. And you said that it was on the list of Hugo Award nominees?
Yes, the short story Tangles, Tangles, which was one of the first pieces I did for them, was on the 2022 ballot for best short story. It did not win, which honestly, I never expected it to win. I would have been delighted if it had won. I had a speech in case it did, which was basically, let me stand here for the 3 minutes that I'm allotted to accept this award and explain to you the frickin' story of Magic the Gathering so you'll stop asking. But I never expected it to win. I wasn't even disappointed when it didn't. What I wanted was to get it onto the ballot and kind of have that legitimization, you know, that moment of, look, there is actually something going on here because we've got really good authors. And I'm not even being self-aggrandizing there. Like there are some really good people other than myself working in this space and working on this property. We've got really good authors who take it very seriously, and they are doing work that is worthy of appearing on the ballot, even if it's not going to pull the votes as something in an established IP that you're not necessarily a fan of to take home the win.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just it's also high quality. So of course,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
going to be really high quality writers contributing to it so that the whole creative endeavor is just elevated, and it keeps getting more elevated because it keeps attracting more talent such as yourself. And it just keeps growing.
Yep, and that is the goal over at Magic Story. The folks that are currently in charge really care, and they are doing their best to make sure that we are putting together the best stuff possible. And I appreciate that about them. I also appreciate the fact that they were foolish enough to give me their home numbers, so they can't stop me from asking them questions at 3 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh, because you keep mentioning, you've said twice that you don't sleep. Is that, are you being pretty literal there? You don't really get much sleep?
I'm being pretty literal there. I write a lot, and that takes a lot of time. I have 5 cats, and that is kind of a damper on the sleeping thing. But also I have chronic insomnia because my brain doesn't shut down pretty much ever. So I find weekends deeply frustrating because everybody else is taking some time off and letting their brains reset. And I'm like, mine doesn't.
Didn't do it. Wow.
I'm still turned on over here. Could you help me? No, you cannot help me. You've gone off to have a life. Eh,
Mm, mm, mhm,
Very unfair.
mm. Somehow that makes me think about, I don't know a whole lot about your background, but understand that you were raised in a carnival
Partially, yes.
partially. So I wonder if that sort of environment would lend itself to a hyperactive imagination.
Well, I think the ADHD helps more with that, honestly. Not necessarily the hyperactive imagination, but the inability to turn it off ever at all. That kind of restless brain is very frequently a mark of the condition.
Mm, mm, I see. Um, well, I have in front of me here a uh, list of questions that I pulled off of, I believe, Instagram. Uh,
Okay.
that is Indie Pride 2. And the questions relate to, Pride. This is June is Pride Month, and the LGBTQIA plus themes that run throughout your books.
Mhm.
So would it be okay if I just pulled a few of these questions off and asked them to you?
Sure, go for it.
Thank you. What is your favorite trope in your books?
In my books,
Hmm.
depends really on how we're defining trope today, but probably found family. I had the experience that a lot of queer kids have, where you wind up going out and kind of constructing a family because the one that you started out with was not necessarily as accommodating or understanding of who you were as you kind of needed them to be. And so I do a lot of found families. That is a huge quantity of my focus.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. Can you tell us about the character that you most relate to?
Probably the character I most relate to is Velveteen, Velma Martinez from the Velveteen Versus series. And she is a child superhero from a world where essentially Disney, as a corporation, owns child superheroes and puts them through child star contracts. But she washed out before she turned 18 and is basically being harried by the corporation. She lives in poverty. She works dead end jobs and is constantly getting fired because she's got this mass corporation trying to brand her a supervillain. And her catchphrase, as it were, is "fucked up times," and then an escalating number. And her background, apart from the superpowers, is remarkably similar to my own. She went through a lot of the same early things and a lot of the same early struggles. And there's a very strong found family theme throughout that series.
Hmm. Interesting.
I wish I could bring toys to life with my mind. That would be great.
Which ones would you bring to mind that are just in your surroundings?
Well, my surroundings right now, I've got 4 creepy dolls over there and a couple more creepy dolls on a shelf over there. But just in my general household, My Little Ponies. I collect Generation 1 My Little Pony and have since Generation 1 My Little Pony was the new thing you could buy in toy stores. So I have approximately 80% of the ponies that were released, which is, literal hundreds of plastic horses. They have their own room.
And if you could bring them to life, they would gallop around the house with you and keep you company and torment your cats.
Yeah. And that would be great.
Yeah, that would be a
I'm
nice
a
world.
mature professional, kids.
Absolutely, that sounds delightful. Oh gosh. Let's see. Can you recommend some LGBT plus authors?
It's actually difficult to recommend on the author basis because I don't tend to keep track of that as closely as I should necessarily. I just read books. I know that Ruthanna Emrys, who is a main local author, she wrote the Innsmouth Legacy for Tor.com. Which are absolutely gorgeous books. It is post-Lovecraft mythos, and they are the kind of books that prove that there is no life after death, because H.P. Lovecraft would have risen from the grave to have a shitty little racist fit about having this stuff published anywhere in conjunction with his beloved mythos. Ruthanna Emrys is LGBTQ+. Catherine Valenti, who lives in Maine, I believe identifies as LGBTQ+. Yeah, and I know a bunch more, but I just blank.
Yeah, I kind of put you on the spot there for that one. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, I can recommend books with LGBTQ+ themes, but the identities of people are so malleable.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right. Well, could you go ahead and recommend some books then?
I hugely recommend Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which came out last year. It came out last year, and it's basically what if your D&D adventurer character managed to retire and open a coffee shop and find her own happily ever after. And it's an incredibly sweet sapphic coffee shop romance. I hugely recommend the Witches of Thistle Grove series by Lana Harper. They are a series of romantic comedies that are set in kind of that perfect eternal Halloweeny autumn feeling place. They're about witches and their lives and loves, and they are incredibly diverse and incredibly queer, and just very comforting. They are warm hug books, which is nice. And then, oh shoot, what is his name? I have forgotten his name. I hate it when I am bad at names, which is 90% of the time. TJ Klune, who wrote The House in the Cerulean Sea.
Oh yeah.
That is a very sweet, very intimate, very well plotted queer love story. I am not a sexy book reader, so most of these are more on the romance found family side than the sexy fun times, because that's just not a thing I enjoy reading. So I don't seek it out and can't really recommend things in that space.
Wonderful. Thank you for those. If you could do the same with your own 70 books that are published, if you could pick out, say for people who like myself, who have not read a lot of your work, what direction would you steer me in, like the top 5?
Well, I would die of embarrassment trying to do that. I'm remarkably bad at self-promo. My instinct makes my publicist cry, because it's all just pictures of My Little Ponies and occasionally my cats. It's like, okay, honey, you can't buy more My Little Ponies if you don't sell books. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to talk about the book. I want to talk about the ponies.
Oh no.
Ponies are more important. Middle Game, which was on the 2020 Hugo ballot, I came in second. Which, the book that won was absolutely deserving and lovely, but it was still just like, oh, because I'm very proud of Middle Game. It was the book it took me 10 years to get good enough to write. And I continue to think it is some of my very best work. Every Heart a Doorway, which was the first of the Wayward Children books, and that won the Hugo and the Nebula and the Locust and the Alex Award. It was the first of my books to win the Alex, and that was very exciting for me. I am the only living author to have won the Alex Award 3 times. Passing Neil Gaiman, who was the first person to win it.
Yeah, congratulations. That's big.
Yeah, so that was fun. If you're looking for queerish stuff and in that space, Alien Echo under the Mira Grant name, which is an alien tie-in novel that is also a queer YA romance. I know. And writing people in the Alien universe, we exist in the world where Alien is a movie that you can watch. So if we see the creature from Alien, we go, oh shit, that's a xenomorph. Someone who's in that universe and has never seen one isn't going to come up with that word off the top of their head. So trying to figure out how to describe these things in a way that you as a reader will recognize, but that doesn't give the characters information that they have no way to possess, was wicked fun. Ridiculously weird, super good time. Into the Drowning Deep, which is also Mira Grant, is my Killer Mermaids book. It is it's aquatic horror. It is biologically feasible killer mermaids killing and eating people. I consulted with so many marine biologists to write that book, and it was ridiculous good fun the whole time. And it has a very high body count. I don't recommend reading it at or near the ocean. And that is 4. And then to give you a 5th, it's hard to find. You basically have to hang out on the secondary market and get really lucky. But I am going to loop back to that earlier question and say Velveteen. Velveteen versus the Junior Super Patriots is the first book in that series. They are sadly out of print because the publisher went out of business. But I am hoping to find another publisher eventually because I'd like to see them come back into print. I'm very proud of them.
Wonderful. Wow, you did it. Despite your
I did, and I'm still alive. My
Yeah.
publicist is inexplicably proud of me.
Super.
She'll probably never know, but right now she's just suffused with this feeling of pride.
Excellent, excellent, as she should be. Are these books, are they also some of your best sellers, or are some of your best sellers fall outside of these 5?
Those are actually honestly probably some of my best sellers, with the possible exception of Alien. I don't actually know how well that one did because while it has been an endless delight, I think it is the first and possibly only Alien tie-in novel to have made the American Library Association recommended reading list. It's an Alien tie-in. It's a YA Alien tie-in, and it's a YA Alien tie-in where girls are making out. This is not something that the Alien community was really super braced for, even though I warned them that it was coming. I think it confused a lot of people.
Right.
Just like, wait, what? If you look up the cover, again, it's called Alien Echo. But if you look up the cover, it's got these 2 girls. Basically, their faces are, one is pointing up and one is pointing down. It's about twin sisters. They have the eye from the Alien poster reflected in their pupil. So the egg rather, you can see the egg reflected in their eyes, and the title is Alien Echo in the Alien font. And I still get email monthly from people going, I picked up this book because it was by Mira Grant. I didn't realize till I was halfway through that it was an Alien tie-in. So I've got to assume that that not all of the Alien people knew either.
Right. That must tickle you.
It amuses the heck out of me.
I bet it does. I bet it does. That's a good trick to play for sure. So with your what am I trying to say here? I'm a magical practitioner and a ceremonialist and a storyteller, and I really appreciate folklore and myth. And often when I'm reading an author that is really steeped in fairy and the magical realities, it often makes me wonder. So and this might be too personal of a question, you absolutely don't have to answer this, but I just wonder, like, is magic and the practicing of magic a part of your life? Like, is this something that you do, or just something you happen to know a lot about?
So I went to school at the University of California, Berkeley. You pretty much don't get through Berkeley without either deciding that all witchcraft is evil and bad, or becoming a crunchy granola California pagan. So I became a crunchy granola California pagan a long time ago. I mostly don't practice because I don't have a lot of folks to practice with up here, and because this is not my land, even to the degree that, having been born on stolen land, made California mine. I understood that place. I'm on Duwamish land here. I don't have permission from the spirits that are native to where I'm standing to do anything here. And so I am not going to really try to push any practices outside of my house. I have my oracles, I have my fortune telling cards, and I keep on top of myself. I had to have my basement exorcised in 2021 because we had a very hostile spirit down there. But apart from that, not so much on a daily basis. He was a jerk. He was there when we moved in. I slept in that room a couple times, and you would just wake up in the night and there'd be this big black floating orb between you and the exit. But it never moved and it never did anything hostile. And so I thought it was there. And then I thought, well, these are night hallucinations. I'll have the CO2 monitor checked, whatever. We turned that into a guest room, and I would put people down there without telling them about the orb because I wanted to know. And literally everyone that was even a little bit sensitive that slept down there would come to me the next day and be like, I saw this orb in the room. What the heck? Multiple people who had not been warned saw the same manifestation. We had a really nasty heat wave in 2021. And so I slept down there for 2 weeks solid. And toward the end of that time, I woke up in the night and it wasn't the orb. It was the outline of a man. And I'm like, that is an escalation that I did not authorize. I'm calling a priestess of the Morrigan that I know to come and ask you politely to go live somewhere else because I didn't say that was okay. The air in that room is completely changed. It used to always feel when you went in there like someone else had just left, that disturbed air feeling that you get. Your proprioception picks up so much more than you know. That feeling is gone. And I have a couple friends who used to have asthma attacks every time they stepped into that room. They don't have that problem anymore. So I kind of use them as canaries in the coal mine to be like, is he coming back? Get in there. Can you breathe? Okay, we're good.
I'll bet. Wow. Goodness. Yeah, glad you had that entity escorted
I
elsewhere.
was perfect. He was here before I was. I was perfectly willing to allow him to stay, but you can't start escalating when people haven't been hostile and have been welcoming.
Mhm, mhm.
So
That makes sense. Let's see. All right. I'm consulting my list
you're
here.
consulting your notes. Yes,
Yes,
you're not
indeed.
super familiar with me, and the convention handed me to you like a terrifying time bomb.
Oh, they did. And it actually my terror decreased as I read more about you, and my interest got thoroughly piqued. So I'm very grateful for my sake. I'm just sorry that there is not someone who is very well versed here
Oh
asking
no, it's fine.
better questions. So
Your questions have been absolutely lovely, and as noted, I am the terror of publicists. It is frequently actually harder when it's someone that's really versed in my work because they'll be like, okay, Seanan, this specific thing, what was the thought process? And I'm like, that was 5 years and 73 books ago. I don't know. I
fair.
think I wrote that at Disney World. Can I go back there now?
Right. Yeah. You'd have to have a photographic memory to be able to answer some questions like that. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about this labyrinth business that you are involved with? Is this ringing a bell? I have a cryptic note here about working idiosyncratically designed labyrinths.
I have no idea.
Okay, fair. That's all right. We'll just
The
move right
cryptic
along.
note is a little too cryptic for me.
Okay, sorry about that. I
fine.
also have oh, this was in one of the bios that you wrote that you really believe in having chainsaws in daily life. Is
I do.
chainsawing something that you do frequently?
No, I don't do a lot of chainsawing. I just think that they are very useful things to have around, and I find the sound of them exceptionally comforting. I watched way too many horror movies as a kid, took all the wrong lessons away. But I love haunted attractions, those things where you turn a farm or a house or whatever into a den of terror for the duration of the Halloween season. And before we were trapped in a global panini where the air could kill you, I would attend a whole bunch of those every fall and just wander happily through these horror environments that had been tailored for my delight. And they're supposed to scare you, and I just smile and beatifically as I kind of drifted through, listening to all the sounds, and then would inevitably be found at the exit harassing the chainsaw clowns because I wanted them to run the chainsaws for me some more. Just make the sound. Come on. Vroom, 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 vroom. Like everything is great.
And would they comply?
It depends on the chainsaw clowns. Most of them actually are pretty good about complying. They're so confused that they're just like, okay, we're going to do that. Maybe go away. She's not leaving.
You're encouraging them rather than running and screaming.
Yeah. This is happening. Yeah. And they would usually ask me to move along right around the time that my enjoyment of their verm noises started to interfere with scaring the next group of tourists.
I see. Thank you. That's hilarious. Okay, all right. Back to book questions. So I wonder, from your book catalog, what books do you feel like deserve more attention than they get?
I mean, honestly, right now, the way that things work, because there's so much stuff coming out, we are communally obsessed with novelty.
Mm.
Something came out more than 6 months ago, it's like it has no value anymore, and we're not rereading. And I've had people apologize for recommending books to me that were not on the brand new shelf. And I'm like, my favorite books in the world, some of them are older than I am. The book I am currently reading, like at this moment, it's in my bathroom, is Mirabile by Janet Kagan, which came out in like 84. And it is a fix-up novel of her stories about Mama Jason that were published in Asimov's magazine of science fiction. They are absolutely brilliant. She was just a brilliant author who never quite got the recognition in her lifetime that she genuinely deserved. And that book is 30 years old. So I don't like that if it's not brand new, we don't talk about it anymore. For things that I personally wrote that I would like to see getting more attention, some of them got all the attention in the world when they first came out. Maybe I'm being greedy, I don't know. But Feed, which was my first book by Mira Grant, was the beginning of my zombie apocalypse setting. And it was my first Hugo nomination. It was named one of the best books of 2010 by NPR. You know, it was a big deal when it came out, but it's not quite forgotten, but it doesn't really get the let's talk about this that I'd love to see. I think every author wants to see that. You want to see people acknowledging your work. Velveteen Verses, you know, I mentioned that's currently out of print. I would really like to see it come back into print. I desperately, desperately want to find a new publisher. And I think if people were reading the ones that are out there more, that might be a little easier on me. I don't know. It's really hard to say. Middle Game, again, it's the best thing I've ever done. I worked myself to death for that book. I did 10 years of other books as writing exercises to figure out how to make that book work. And so part of me is just like, well, yeah, you read it, but then you dropped it because you had newer things to read. And I spent 15 years just rereading The Last Unicorn so that I could honestly feel like I understood it. Give it another go. Come on, let's go around again. Let's go around again.
That's very deeply interesting that you delved into that it was a book that you had to learn how to write. So it was your teacher, or
It was
kind of a mentor to you.
I honestly, I am so proud of that book. I love that book, and I'm really glad that it's finally been written. But I honestly do miss some days getting up and going to work on the books that I had that were in queue, the ones that were up now, knowing that that book would get me one step closer to being good enough to write Middle Game. It was nice kind of having that anchoring goal that this is what you're working toward. And I'm sure I will find another book to be working toward. I'm nowhere near done, but I haven't located it yet. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. So Feed, Velveteen, Middle Game. Any other ones that you would like to see back up in circulation?
I mean, they're all in circulation. This was just the what would you like more attention? It's the egotism.
Right, yeah.
I would also love to see my short story collection, which is Laughter at the Academy, attract more attention, just because I think that I have a lot of fun in the short story space, but it's not what I'm primarily known for. So that's not what people go looking for from me. And also Laughter at the Academy. One of my special interests, like things that I like to read about and study about and really dig into and have a nice time with, is pandemic disease. I find it fascinating, and historical pandemics can teach us so much, not only about where we are right now, but about where we've been as a species. And so that is a topic I return to periodically in my short fiction. So Laughter at the Academy came out in early 2020. And I feel like some folks hit the tolling of Pavlov's bells and were just like, nope, I'm out.
Whoa. Okay. Right. So that one needs a fair shake after the wave of the pandemic rolled over all of us. Right. Was it fairly prescient? What's your book prescient?
Given that the intro for the tolling of Pavlov's bells is explaining why the modern American disregard for quarantine is going to come with a body count in the very near future, yeah.
Dang, you saw that coming. I here in my cryptic notes, I have Origins of the Black Death. That's something that you like to talk about.
That is something that I like to talk about and something that I like to study. In the last couple of years, we've found more supportive evidence for the Yersinia pestis theory, for the idea that the Black Death was the bubonic plague. I still have questions. Like, I can absolutely see the validity of that theory, but it depends on Yersinia pestis having gone through a brief period of time. Here's YP, and it's just doing its thing, and then it hits Europe in 1497 and decides that it's going to behave in a completely new way for about 150 years, and then it goes back to being the Yersinia pestis we know today. Yersinia pestis, bubonic plague takes less than 14 days from catch to kill, while pneumatic plague is droplet-based, but it slaughters faster still. And whatever caused the Black Death took its time and had some fun because it didn't kill in 14 days, instead try 31. We've got all of this epidemiological evidence about the Black Death as it was happening in Europe that just does not line up with Yersinia pestis at all. Quarantine worked on the Black Death. You can't quarantine a rat flea. A quarantine depends on a droplet-based transmission. You need aerosol transmission for a quarantine to work, which implies pneumatic plague. But bubonic plague does not move into pneumatic form in more than 3% of cases. So you would need a strain of Yersinia pestis that attacked preferentially in the lungs, which is not a thing it likes to do, and just did not behave the way that we expect this particular bacterium to behave. Today in Weird Interests.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it ties into your work in a lot of different ways.
It does.
Mind and
so my first work as Mira Grant was the Newsflesh trilogy, which started with Feed, that book I mentioned before. And in order to build a better zombie virus, to start a zombie apocalypse that did not feel completely stolen from a Romero movie, I had to basically start on the ground level and just build up from there and make the perfect zombie virus. So because I have never had a terrible idea that I would not pursue to the ends of the earth, I called the CDC. And just like cold called the CDC and said, "Hi, I'm Seanan Mcguire. I'm an author and I'm working on a book. Would one of your doctors like to talk to me?" And they were like, "We don't think so. What's the book about?" And I said, "Zombie apocalypse." And they said, "Pretty sure no." Yeah, they didn't hang up on me, but they were just like, probably not. And then I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, thank you for your time. Can I leave my name and number?" And they said, "Sure. We will take your name and number so you'll go away." So I start spelling my name, and the lady that had answered the phone went, "Wait, are you the Black Death girl?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Did you write that song about the Black Death?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Prove it." How? Sing. So I started singing to the CDC secretarial pool.
You don't do it.
and she put me on speaker without telling me. It's a 7-minute long Schoolhouse Rock style song about the epidemiological origins of the Black Death in Europe. It's very bouncy. The Black Death arrived in Europe back in 1347, and for several hundred years it just kept sending folks to heaven. It started in Messina and spread outward in the summer. And if you were in the path of plague, it really was a bummer. And it just goes on, and it's like it's having a nice time, bounce, bounce, bounce. And I got to the end, and the entire CD, and back to that, this really happened internet joke. The whole CDC secretarial pool clapped, yay! And one of their doctors called me 3 days later and helped me through the development of my zombie virus. So given that the Mira Grant books were the thing that first caught attention and kind of got the sales to establish me as a working author, I would say that I owe everything to the Black Death. Thanks, Black Death.
Thanks, Black Death. Wow, that is a great story. Yeah, that's meant to be there. Forces aligned. Wow, fabulous. Thanks, Black Death. Wow, anything else you have to add to your Black Death and how it ties into your career?
Not really. I haven't written a Black Death book yet. I've had it suggested a couple times, but we are, and this is a weird statement about a disease that happened 500 years ago, we are still learning things about it. We're still finding things out. And so I kind of want to wait for the science to be in. And also right now, you know, I like to study pandemics from a distance. I like to look at them as academic things. It turns out I don't like living through them. I'm not having a good time with that, and I would like it to be over now, please. I know it is not, but I would really like it to be done, and to be back to what passes for normal. The old version of normal is not coming back because it can't. Too many people have died. But I'm not having a good time with all of this, and it's hard to get enthusiastic about writing disease fiction when part of it's not fictional.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I wonder too about just the audience's appetite for that topic.
Yeah, you would think, and yet there have been some things published that have done very well that I just sat here being like, you know, I have gotten myself in trouble for talking about parasites at the dinner table and leech collection during San Diego Comic-Con panels and all of this other stuff. I really have no sense of decorum where I think that's in poor taste is concerned. But some of these things have come out and I've been like, I think that's in kind of poor taste, guys. Which if I feel that way is probably a bad sign.
Mm.
The audience is still there, and I'm not going to fault anyone for liking anything. You know, you find comfort where you find comfort, you like what you like. My issue is more with the publishers going, I think we should put this out, where it's just like, I really don't think that it's time for that. Okay, well, you think it's time for that. Okay, fine. We're gonna do, oh, you've done it. Yeah. How's that going for you? Is that going pretty well? Seems to be going okay. Cool. I'll be over here with the people that aren't making me angry.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the just very respectful approach of not making assumptions about what people want to read.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, given that I'm hiring exorcists and such, I do believe in ghosts. And I believe that we have just had a mass traumatizing event that has probably made quite a few of them. And I don't really want to attract their attention in a negative, look at what this bitch said about us kind of a way. Like, I'm real sorry about your untimely deaths. Leave me out of it.
Fair. Yeah, fair. That sounds like wisdom to me. Let's see. We have about 5 minutes left here, and I wonder if there is some corner of your work universe that I have not touched upon that you wish that I had. Is there something that you would like to tell me about?
So my longest series, the first book I published was called Rosemary and Rue. It came out in September of 2009, and it started off the October Day series of urban fantasies. And those are really fun. They still hold up today. They're pretty solid. And I recommend them to people on Do You Want to See Me Get Better? Because if you start that series, you are starting with me at the very beginning of my career. I can only go up from there. And so you're basically guaranteed the things you like will probably intensify. And the things that you don't like, I will probably grow out of, unless you're one of those people where what you don't like is that I acknowledge that queer people exist. And then I'm just going to make you angry. So Rosemary and Rue came out in September of 2009. Later this year, in September and then October, books 17 and 18 in the same series are coming out. It is not an easy feat to get up to book 18 in an ongoing series in today's publishing world.
Tell me more about that. Why is that?
Because publishers cancel very quickly these days. And that is partially a matter of tighter bottom lines. I was mentioning earlier that a lot of the book ordering is based on computers. Well, there aren't as many computers as there used to be. You know, there's no more Walden Books, there's no more B. Daltons, there's no more Borders. It's just Barnes and Noble, the independent bookstores, and the big river on the internet. And so to get enough books into circulation for it to be worth your publisher's time, you have to be doing something right. Publishers generally, there is a diminishing return on series. That is just fact. That's how sales work. And so keeping a series going past a certain point is really freaking difficult. And I am legit proud of myself that with my first series, I kind of looked at the thing of like a trilogy if you're lucky and said, screw that, I'm just going to keep going till I'm finished. That is also the book series that really kind of justifies my time at Berkeley, because that is my deep into Fae folklore and mythology series. And, you know, we have a good time there. But the Toby books are really the demonstration not only of how I have grown as a writer in one self-contained locale, because you're plugging through these, you're going to see me improve, whether you mean to or not, if you're still hanging out. But it is a demonstration of a lot of my strengths that are hard to show in shorter bursts. You know, I'm very good, and I feel very braggy, but this is true. I'm very good at foreshadowing and at setting things up in book 1 that are going to pay off in book 17. And that is not the most in-demand skill set in the publishing world, but it's the one I got. And so it's the one that I'm going to lean on. But people like those books. They do quite well. I am not saying that, oh, they are ignored or people are sleeping on them or something. But as something that we hadn't really talked about, I think the Toby books are a good demonstration of what I'm about as an author in that self-contained form.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Sounds very, just patient. Sounds like the publishing industry doesn't have the patience for that long arc that you're describing.
Not really. And that kind of goes back to the whole thing I was saying earlier about how we hunt for novelty. We are hungry for novelty all the time. A series that has been around long enough at this point that I do get email from people telling me that they read it in middle school, and that makes me feel ancient. But a series that qualifies in that area is not novel. It's not new anymore. So I can be very proud of it, but for some people, it's always going to be old-fashioned, and that's okay.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank
you for the whole discussion.
Oh yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. I hope that this goes out onto the interwebs and finds the people who need to see it and can help to just increase the interest in the people who are buying your books.
That would be nice. I would appreciate it, though. Honestly, I think anyone that's not already buying my books is not going to sit through an hour of me talking to you. Like we can always hope. You can always hope that like someone clicks by and they're just enchanted by the mellifluous sound of your voice. Oh, I have to stay and hear what this woman has to say. She's brilliant. But we both know that that's not what happens.
Well, at the very least, you increased your readership by 1. So
yeah. Thank you so much.
There's that.
It's been delightful.
All right. Likewise. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great night.
I'll be in contact via email to take care of whatever's left over. Because I owe you.
Oh, you're fine. Are you guys having a good time?
Yeah, it's all right. I'm getting too old for this.
Oh,
I don't know how you're Cersei's a trooper.
I'm a trooper. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kids and being a
And
mom.
everybody's got different strengths. Like I can sit and type for 17 hours at a stretch, but put me at a party and after 30 minutes, I am sitting on a bed in a dark room.
Yeah, I'm super introvert too.
Um,
My strength is napping.
yeah, oh, napping. I'm so good at napping. I'm not good at
Yeah.
sleeping, but I'm good at napping. That is a different skill set.
I can raise kittens and I can sleep.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my kitten to come. She normally comes when she hears the
Quicker.
click, but I'm guessing she is either sleeping the kitten sleep on a flat surface somewhere or outside on the catio.
I saw one on your little kitty tower there in the back. I
What
saw,
color was it?
Audio.
oh, it was a whitish
That
gray.
was probably Verity. She is my rag doll. She does not wish
Oh.
her, but she would like to speak to your manager.
Oh, she would. Deal.
She is the Karen of cats. She was
Oh, no.
nature to look disapproving and ask to talk to your manager.
Ragdolls are awesome though. They're so sweet and
Yeah,
soft, usually.
She is soft. She is not sweet. Okay, my house guest is coming back. She is bringing me my kitten.
Yay.
Sack of potatoes. This is a 7-month-old baby. Oh, hi, baby.
Oh, a calico. Lovely.
What a pretty. Oh, she's beautiful.
This is 7 months old.
Those huge ears.
Well, the ear
She's got
tips.
lynx ear.
She's got Maine Coon in her. You
Oh,
can see it
She
in the
is a Maine Coon.
Yeah.
She is from Woodpile, Maine Coons here in Washington.
Yep. They've got that kind of that Ron Perlman angled face
Oh.
going.
Baby. Yes, that square muzzle and those tufty ears.
Ear tufts and
Tufty ears.
Yeah, these nice people are talking to you from the ancestral land of your people.
even 7 months, Maine Coons tend to grow for the first 2 years. So
5.
Oh,
your mama right there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it takes 5 years for them to hit their full skeletal strength, and that's when they go through second puberty and actually put on their muscle mass.
That's going to be a big.
Oh, look at that jaw. Look
Yep.
at that
So
jaw.
she is the third Maine Coon currently in this house. She's
Mm.
Maine Coon overall. But the baby.
Oh, she's magnificent.
Mm.
Be Kelpie, people are admiring you.
Yeah, that's straight up a mountain lion right
Oh yeah, look at her.
Oh,
Oh, she's
big
loving it. She's
smile.
loving it. Oh my.
Yeah, she's got a good purr going. She's enjoying the admiration.
there. Yes, this is what I deserve. Thank
That's
you.
right.
Thank you.
That's right. More, please.
As is due.
Oh, I'm just.
As is due. But yes, raising kittens is definitely a skill set.
Yeah.
Mhm,
My 2
mhm.
fosters just went to their forever home today. And luckily, the person who adopted them, their friend is at the con. So she was able to show me pictures of them in their new home,
Oh,
sleeping in their new owner's hands. And I'm like, all right, that helps. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I used to foster kittens, but I couldn't. I ran out of the heart for it. And also I ran out of the patience for the emotional damage.
Yeah.
Of the cats I have right now, one of them is a rescue, and she is so food insecure that we even let the bottom of a bowl become visible. She will stuff herself till she can hold nothing more and then vomit tornado all over the house.
Yeah.
And then go back and repeat it 2 or 3 times because she's convinced there will never be food again.
Mm.
And it's just like, I can't. So I go to reputable breeders now so that I know
Yeah.
everything my kittens have experienced.
Yeah. Both of mine are foster fails. And one of them, not only does she not have any teeth now, but she's the same boat where I've got to do small feedings throughout the day.
Mhm.
She'll binge and hork and binge and hork.
Yep.
Oh no.
And you can't really do small feedings throughout the day with Maine Coons.
Yeah, no, they need big
Calorie
feedings all the
sinks.
time.
Hmm.
Yep. Giant calorie sinks. This is the most food-oriented cat I've ever had.
Oh.
When she was at her 4 to 5 month growth spurt, heading up to this size, she was eating 4 cans of wet food a day, plus the access to the dry.
Whoa.
And she's still lean. She is a long otter kitty cat. You wanna go?
She's gorgeous.
Can they see your tail as you head out?
Oh, look at that fluffy fluff.
The beautiful plumage.
Oh my goodness. Quite the club you got there, Cat.
Do they all sleep with you? Do you
Oh
suffocate?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still alive, but there's a reason I don't sleep much. Okay,
Oh,
move on. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. So I just wanted to show you the kitten. Thank you. You guys have been lovely. Have a wonderful night and a great rest of your convention.
See ya.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Shauna.
Bye.
Bye.